The following presentation will go over the proposed 2025 hunting seasons within the Gillette Wildlife Biologist District. Wildlife managers use various data sources when it comes time to set hunting seasons. A lot of the data that was used to compile these hunting seasons came from our aerial classification surveys, ground surveys, and harvest surveys. This is in addition to just anecdotal observations and talking to folks while we're out on the ground. After these seasons are composed, the department reviews it internally, and at that point it goes out for public comment. Once public comment comes back, we'll have an analysis of those comments and we'll make changes as necessary. These seasons are then presented to the commission, and this will be on April 22nd and 23rd in Casper. The commission will then approve or recommend changes. When we think about managing these different herds, we think about management by objective. So some herds have a population objectives, others are a satisfaction objective, and some we have trend counts as an objective. Generally speaking, if they are below objective, we will have a more conservative season, and above objective, a more liberal season. There is some wiggle room with this, as the populations are just that, they are just an estimate. So this is then where landowner opinion, public opinion, and field observations will also factor in. Each big game herd objective is to be reviewed every 5 years. This gives us a chance to see if the objective that we have is a realistic objective to achieve. It's also a long enough time that it's not going to be affected by a couple droughts or bad winters. Currently, in my district, there are 3 pronghorn objectives to be reviewed, as well as a Powder River mule deer herd. The next few slides will talk about each of these herd units and what is proposed for the objective changes. I'll be talking about these herds in a little more detail in subsequent slides, but for this purpose, as far as the objective review for Pumpkin Butte's pronghorn, which is hunt area 23, we have a postseason population objective of 18,000 animals with a private land management strategy, and currently we estimate there are around 13,000 pronghorn. We are not recommending any changes to the objective or management strategy. North Black Hills pronghorn herd unit is comprised of hunt areas 1, 2, 3, 18, and 19. Currently, it's managed by a postseason population objective of 17,000 with a recreational management status. The current population estimate is around 12,500 pronghorn. No changes are recommended to this objective. Gillette pronghorn herd is located northwest of Gillette and is comprised of hunt area 17. The current management objective is a postseason population objective of 11,000 pronghorn with the management strategy of recreational. The current estimate of number of pronghorn is around 6,500 pronghorn. Although this herd is well below objective, it was determined that no changes would be proposed. Since these objectives are reviewed every few years, we can further scrutinize this herd if it has not climbed closer to the objective at that point. Moving on to mule deer, the Powder River mule deer herd, which is comprised of hunt areas 17, 18, 23, and 26, is up for objective review. It's currently managed by a postseason population objective of 45,000 deer with the private land management strategy. Our current best estimate is that there are around 20,000 deer on the landscape within this herd unit. We do recommend changing this objective to 30,000 for a postseason population objective and retaining the private land management strategy. Basically, this herd has been on a long, slow decline and does not show signs of improving immediately. It is not likely that this herd will reach the objective in the next 5 years if the 45,000 was maintained. Generally speaking, within the Gillette Wildlife Biologist District, deer and antelope herds are mostly below objective. A lot of factors are at play here, past harsh winters, summers with drought conditions. All of this leads to poor rangeland conditions, which in turn affects fawn production and survival. Although this current winter is overall relatively mild. The drought and fires have no doubt had adverse effects on herds in this area. The one exception to things being below objective are elk, and elk seem to be thriving within this corner of the state. Okay, moving on to the actual proposed seasons and starting with the antelope areas. And the antelope areas are limited quota for both resident and non-resident, which allows for a little bit more flexibility in management. Overall, like I had said, numbers are down in this corner of the state and all of the herds are below objective. In some of the areas, we have had some good fawn recruitment, and it looks like some of them are beginning to trend upwards. So for our first antelope herd, Pumpkin Buttes, which is hunt area 23, this is managed for an objective of 18,000 antelope on the landscape, and we're estimating there to be around 16,500. So we're pretty close and within that 20% plus or minus, and no changes are proposed for this herd unit. For our North Black Hills antelope areas 1, 2, 3, 18, and 19, managed for an objective of 17,000, estimated just over 12,000. This is one of the herds where, depending on the hunt area, places are better than others, and we've seen some decent fawn production and high harvest success. And so for hunt area 1, the type 1s, we're proposing an increase in there, and then in 18 on the type 1s, an increase, as well as some increase in doe fawn licenses in hunt area 19. For the Gillette antelope herd, which is hunt area 17, we have an objective of 11,000, and we're estimating about 6,500 out there. And this is one hunt area where the numbers went down several years ago, and it just doesn't seem to be rebounding very quickly. The number of licenses that are proposed out there is far below what this herd historically could support. That being said, no changes are proposed. For Black Thunder herd, my portions of that are hunt areas 24 and 27. And this is an area where it seems like it's slightly rebounding. We've had some better fawn production out there and increase in harvest and just more animals on the landscape. So this warrants an increase on the buck tags on both the type 1s and type 2s. So that's it for the pronghorn season proposal. So moving on to proposed deer seasons, and this presentation has different hunt areas from these 4 different herds here. You can pause this and read through it if you want, but like I said, most all of the herds, all of them are below objective. And this kind of has what we are managing for and what we estimate is out there by herd. Again, as opposed to reading through all of this, this is just a summary of the deer hunt areas within the Gillette Biologist District. And really, in a nutshell, no changes are proposed from last year. Most of the deer areas for residents are general, with the exception of some scattered throughout the state. Our non-resident regional licenses are based on limited quota. For our Region A quota, which is the far northeast corner of the state, we're recommending 2,000 non-resident limited quota licenses, which is no change from last year. For our Region B non-resident quota, we're recommending 800, which is no change from last year. For our Region C quota, we are recommending 1,800 non-resident licenses, which is a reduction by 200. Again, this is comprised of a few different herds, one of which is the Powder River herd, which is far below objective, as well as the Pumpkin Buttes deer herd, which is also below objective. Like I had said before, elk seem to be thriving in this corner of the state and are expanding further into the general areas out of some of our limited quota managed herd areas. For the fortification elk herd or elk area 2, this will be the 4th year for a general season in this area. This herd is still far above objective, although since implementing this general season strategy, it's estimated that a lot more elk are being harvested and there's more opportunity for this to happen. This herd is currently managed by a trend count objective of 150. So that means an aerial survey that's done every year and then taking a 3-year average of those counts from each year. We counted 501 on this year's survey, and that is, again, only 1 year, and it would be based upon a 3-year average. But we are still far above that objective of 150 elk. Okay, so for the Rochelle Hills elk herd, which is areas 113 and 123, generally speaking, elk seem to be thriving in both of these areas. And we went to a different objective last year and moved to a trend count objective. The exact number that we're going to try to manage for will be determined over the next few years, but kind of roughly 500 elk again on that 3-year average of the aerial surveys. Currently, though, with our November 2024 survey, we observed 1,360 elk, and that was between both 113 and 123. We do have kind of a lot of changes proposed in here. For 113, which is kind of our public land hunt area, we have proposed to add in a type 1 license for the any elk, retaining the type 3 licenses, but extending that by a month on those spike or antlerless elk, and then adding in a type 8 license that is the same as the surrounding general areas. And again, that is cow or calf, valid on private land only. For 123, although the numbers of elk on the landscape definitely support a general season, there was not landowner support in that area for that, and it's a predominantly private land access area. So we are proposing 200 type 1s for the month of October and retaining the type 4, 200 of those, and removing the type 6 and retaining that type 8. And one thing I did just want to say about the elk seasons and quotas is that our timeline has changed a bit by when we need to have our seasons into the administration to get them on the website for folks to apply. And so the hope going forward is that these season types or license types and seasons will be the same from year to year unless something warrants a change, but just so that there's continuity from year to year and folks know what to expect. One other thing about the Rochelle Hills that is being proposed, and this is specific to Hunt Area 123, is a boundary changed and essentially shifting the far northeast corner boundary a bit more to the west so that in essence more of that 123 would be in the adjacent 126 general area. And it really has been managed pretty close to this in the past. This is just going to clean up the regulations and increase elk harvest potentially. The folks that are within that area would like it to be generally speaking, and so this is proposed for those various reasons. Moving on to the main general elk area 129 here. No changes are proposed. The only big change would be that this is the second year of our non-resident regional elk quotas, and the goal in this part of the state was to make it easier to draw for people that have somewhere to hunt. And so after reviewing that first year of that, we are proposing an increase of 400 non-resident Region E licenses. Moving on to our upland game bird season proposals. Again, this is probably just easier to read, but really no changes are proposed from last year. For our proposed turkey seasons, we have the whole area is managed as Area 1 statewide, and we do have some changes proposed in here, and this is an effort to kind of simplify regulations and to allow for some harvest on private land in certain counties as well. And again, some changes proposed for the spring turkey season for 2026, but it's really just an effort to simplify things. For sage grouse, no changes are proposed, and this area in this corner of the state is proposed to remain closed for 2025. If you made it to the end of this presentation, I appreciate that, and thank you for taking the time to listen to it. I did want to say if you wanted more detailed information on any of these big game herds, you can find the job completion reports on our website, and that will go into a lot greater detail with more charts and graphs and numbers as far as what the population has done over the last several years for each given herd. And then at this point, if you have any comments that are relevant to the commission approving these seasons or not, whether they're in favor or not of any of these proposed seasons, you can do a hard copy one or an online one, and comments must be received by March 29th. If you have any specific questions or just want to talk to an actual person, all of our contact info is here for this corner of the state. And I thank you for your time.